I think that last 5 years, Azerbaijan somehow recognized as a center of multiculturalism in international communities also. Because I remember just 10 years, 15 years ago, when you ask about Azerbaijan in foreign countries, mostly they said, oh, I know that ex-Soviet Republic, or the rich country with natural resources. Maybe the last period somehow the organizations like Eurovision Song Contest and Formula One and etc. But now in many platforms when we are participating, mostly they are calling, yeah, we know that Azerbaijan is multi-ethnic, multi-confessional country which is elevated the policy of multiculturalism in the state policy level, and that's acceptable, appreciated for that. I think nowadays it's at the visit card of the country also in outside, and it's a liberal values, it's a policy of based on liberal values, which is, I think, the countries or the somehow political power which would like to accuse Azerbaijan against the washing of cultural heritage or against restriction of minority rights, they are not successful because of the policy of multiculturalism. Actually, it comes from the history. Historically, this geography is polyethnic and multicultural, multi-confessional geography. Even when we speak about the Caucasian Albania, the Christian heritage of Azerbaijanis till Islamic period, there lived many different nations with different background, with different language, culture, and religions. It's a fact. And nowadays also there is living more than 30 different nations with same diverse. And they are all preserve their identities in Azerbaijan. They have a rights for sure. So when we talk about multiculturalism, we say that it comes from history. It's a value of Azerbaijani people which is preserved till this time. But is that enough? I think no, because after gaining the independence, after the collapse of Soviet Union, the national leader of Azerbaijani people, Haydar Aliyev, as I said, elevated this in the state policy level and reflected all these values in Constitution of the Republic of Azerbaijan, in legislative acts, and approved all international conventions related to minority rights and etc. So it's very important to realize it in a state policy level. So there is a social will, and there is a political will, and there is a legislative system which allow to protect the minority rights. So when we talk in international organizations or conferences, we are always calling it the model of Azerbaijani multiculturalism, and the journalists and friends asking them, what do you mean when we say model? So if you say that Jewish, Christians and Muslims living together in coexistence, you can witness it in many areas, in many European countries. I said no, it's not an effect of existence of diversity in the country. It's not enough. It's somehow the approach of the state to this diversity. You know, how the state accepted the diversity and how the policies. In some European countries, I lived in Western countries, I know how they are accepting this policy. Most of them say that the political leaders say multiculturalism failed in our society. I don't think that multiculturalism failed. Because I think that the approach is implementation of the policy maybe failed, but the reality, the diversity in many countries, you can't ignore this. Nowadays, the world, there is living more than 2,000 different nations with different language and background, but there is approximately 198 independent countries. So what does it mean? It means these 2,000 nations have to create their own states or to learn to live together in a peaceful coexistence. So that's why when the president of Azerbaijan, Excellency Ilham Aliyev, said that we don't see any alternative of the model of multiculturalism, the alternative is xenophobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, discrimination, and etc. He means this. So what do you offer? What is other model to regulate the societies? We are lucky somehow in this direction, yeah, where it comes from historically. This geography was always diverse, but it was not always in a state policy level. It was naturally formulated also, but there is also challenges. For example, Azerbaijan located in a very complex geography. We have a very difficult neighbors, and the relations is very difficultly here. To protect, to preserve this diversity, not allowed to manipulate of this diversity, is very difficult also. And to realize it, not to afraid, not to accept it as a threat, but to accept it as a richness, and always support to keep this diversity. I think Azerbaijan is one of the rare countries who is realizing it. For sure, the minorities living here, they are living in this geography historically, mostly. For sure, during the Soviet period, also the Russian Tsar Empire period, there was a migration of other communities also, but even doesn't matter. Azerbaijan is not the location which is accepting migrants, but we have a strong regulations on the right of minorities. If it will be happen, there will not be any problem also for them. They can easily create the cultural centers, NGOs for realizing and so preserving their identities, etc. After the war, Russian-Ukraine war, for example, there is moved also many Russians, many Ukrainians also. We have a Russian community in Azerbaijan, we have a Ukrainian community in Azerbaijan, which in this geography, they are also have a brotherly relation, not like friendly. They do not have a problem between the communities in Azerbaijan. I can say both of them. There is a natural atmosphere also. The simple people always here not acceptable to ask who are you, what ethnicity are you belong, or which religions are you belong, etc. It's not acceptable in our society, and naturally it's not happening here. And also the simple people also seeing that the government, the president, the head of the government, realizing it, always mentioning it, giving the huge attention to this policy. In all international organizations, in all platforms, he's always mentioning multiculturalism, values, social cohesion, which we have in a country. The power of Azerbaijanis is in our unity, and etc. Because of that, formulated state organizations like Baku International Multiculturalism Center, which is realizing these policies also. So I can say that if you have only natural development of multiculturalism, it will not be enough. Maybe, as I said, some powers can be easily manipulated and misuse this diversity. But if you have a balanced state policy and a natural diversity, you can manage it. Even the occupation period, even the war period, Azerbaijani people never fought against Armenians, against Armenian culture, language, or belief. We don't hate any nation, we don't fight any nation or any culture. We fight it for the justice. Always in international media, I read that Karabakh conflict is a religious-based conflict. It's a conflict between Muslims and Christians. Or sometimes they are saying it's an ethnic conflict between Azerbaijanis and Armenians. I don't think so. It was a territorial conflict. It was an occupation, and we fought for the justice, for liberation of our recognized territories. That's all. So because of this, we never teach hatred in our schools. We never teach, like Armenians, that we have to fight for any nation. And it's not just acceptance and the tolerance. It's more than acceptance and the tolerance. We loved all nations, all cultures which we have within the country. And I think that Azerbaijan, as a state, belongs not just Azerbaijani Turks, but all the nations which for centuries living in this area. This is a government which established by all of peoples living in this geography. I was born in Karabakh. I was IDPs last 30 years. I was born in Agdam. I was 3 years when I forced to move my homeland. My father was 2 times shot during, he was a surgery, army surgery during period. I live my last 30 years about the histories of Karabakh, about what we lost, what we don't have anything when we came to Baku. And in my childhood, that was my tragedy, my child tragedy, that why we lost our houses, our all what we have in our hand. But never, my parents never teach me hate, because we knew that there is also simple people who is against this war. It was a policy. Maybe for sure that was done by the hands of Armenians, but not only Armenians started this conflict. We know all the history. As the President always mentioned, we know all the information, but we awaited exactly the right time. Silently, and we solved this problem, I think. And if we started more 100 years, more 1,000 years hate each other, what will happen? Will be die many people, will be killed many people, and that will be tragedy of every family. There is a phrase of, I don't like this phrase, but it's very important, that Joseph Stalin said that the killing of one person is a tragedy, but the millions is just a statistic. I don't want that the nations and the peoples here will be die like a statistic in many newspapers or media. We have to learn to respect each other, minimum to respect, not to love, okay, to respect each other's, and to learn how to communicate between us, as we did it in many years before. After the liberation, just 10 days later of liberation, thanks to the government, there was a possibility to, I tried to find my house. Unfortunately, I found only one wall of our house there. My father has a serious health problem. I took my parents because they always waited this exactly time. Karabakh is not just a territory for Azerbaijani peoples, it's more than territory, it's a soul of Azerbaijani people. So most time my grandfather, my grandmothers always mentioned that only one time, if there will be possibility to see the Karabakh again. Unfortunately, they couldn't see it, but parents was a possibility to visit. Every week they're asking me, do you know new information when we will go back? And I said there is a reconstruction issues that I think that during 2-3 years the Agdam will be ready and will be very beautiful, huge city, and absolutely without no question they will be back. Unfortunately, there is one negative example also, that Armenian soldiers knew that when the Azerbaijani peoples will come back, the first places when they will visit it is the mosques, religious worship places, and they put so many landmines around the cultural heritage monuments nearby that over 350 civilians were killed during this process also. Why I mention it? Because they know our psychology. They know that how important this region, mosques, churches, our grandfathers and mothers, all the soul of Karabakh, it's not just the buildings, it's more than. That's why they are crying when they are going to the region always. Already I visited more than 50 times to Karabakh, and always I'm very excited. I'm always with the same excitement waiting the time that tomorrow I'm going. With a proud, I'm saying my parents, my friends, that tomorrow I will be in Karabakh. I will visit these places. So it's more than just a visit somewhere. We always believe that we will return, but in our hearts, we thought that it's very complicated. 30 years, many peoples, the peoples who remember the Karabakh already died. New generation is mostly oriented not to give more huge attention. I thought in this way. I didn't know all the statistics for sure, but in my mind, I saw that the next generation will be very complicated to liberate this area. But when it happened, I saw that the young guys, the children, which 3-4 years old, forced to move, they came back and liberated these areas. Now, that was amazing history. That in a very short period of time, because they fight it about not just for occupy somewhere. They fight it for the values which they believed. And they don't afraid of dying or etc. So even there is an interview of Armenian soldiers that it was impossible. We shot at them many times, but they are not dying. We thought that we were fighting with robots or something, because of the soul. If you believe, if it's yours, if you know that it's yours, and you are 30 years waited the president, his words that it's time, that was for me not surprising but excited to me. I didn't saw it in such level. I knew somehow that one time we will go back, maybe it will be solved diplomatically or with war or etc. But I cried. I remember that how many times I cried when President declared or wrote in tweet, we liberated these villages, we liberated Agdam or Fizuli and etc. We waited between the 6 and 7, he's always wrote the tweets. We stopped the cars in the road and waited the tweets that President will declare some new location that he liberated. So it was one of the best period of my life, whole my life. That's this period of time. That's these tweets. That was my honest answer.